Welcome back to another episode of Big Hit, IUP's favorite sports talk show. I'm your host, Chris Hayes. We're going to talk about two things today, both playoffs, NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs. We'll start with the NBA with Izzy Muhammad and Steve Langdon talking about all the NBA series in the Eastern Conference and then the Western Conference. Then we'll switch gears to the NHL playoffs with Jake Taylor and Elliot Hicks, talking about the Penguins-Flyers series, Battle of Pennsylvania. The Vegas Golden Knights up 3-0 right now. The Capitals in trouble, down 0-2 early. The Tampa Bay Lightning and Boston Bruins both lost Game 3, but they're both up 2-1 in the series anyway. Should take care of business. We'll see what those guys have to say about that. This is the Big Hit, though. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back with all that stuff. Welcome back into the Big Hit, folks. I'm here with our two NBA guys for the day, Izzy Muhammad, Steve Langdon. We're talking NBA playoffs. The playoffs are underway already, and several games are under our belts thus far. So we'll talk about each series here, starting with the Eastern Conference. And the number 1 seed Toronto Raptors are taking on the 8 seed Wizards. The Raptors took Game 1, winning their first Game 1 in 10 tries. Even with the Raptors' early lead, up 1-0 right now, Game 2 is playing as we're filming this. Who do you have winning this series, Izzy?
Going into this series, you see Washington, and you look at the structure of their team, and you don't really know what you're going to get out of John Wall. Whether or not he's going to struggle throughout these playoffs. Coming back off of a serious injury, and just looking at the Raptors and the Wizards. When you look at Toronto, I don't think that Toronto is as good as people think they are, but I don't think that Washington is even close, which is ridiculous. I think Toronto will get knocked out at some point throughout the playoffs.
Probably second round. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't think the Wizards got it in them this year. I just think that they don't have enough firepower, honestly, to get this to win the series.
Yeah, I think the Wizards, they don't really have a big man, and I think in the current NBA, you need a big man. They have Bradley Beal, they have John Wall, but they can be inconsistent at times. And I think that if they had a bigger man than like an Embiid for the Sixers, then I think they would be in better shape. But going to the Raptors, I think that when you have DeMar DeRozan, who's probably the best mid-range shooter in the NBA, and then you have Kyle Lowry to go along with him, and then you have big mans too that, you have Serge Ibaka and Valanciunas to get rebounds. So they have an inside and an outside presence in that team. So I think going forward, I think in the series, Toronto has the advantage over the Wizards. But like you said, I don't see Toronto really going far in these playoffs.
Let's discuss the 2 seed, the Boston Celtics. They're up 1-0 in their series against the Milwaukee Bucks. Of course, the Celtics without Kyrie Irving, their superstar point guard, without Marcus Smart for the entirety of the playoffs too, without Gordon Hayward for the entire season. He's out for the whole playoffs as well. They got to get past the Greek freak Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Milwaukee Bucks. Will the injury-riddled Celtics be able to survive the young Milwaukee Bucks?
I mean, when you're watching the games and you're looking at the Bucks, you really try to you want to see Giannis, prove to the world that he's that number 1 option, that guy that's going to take them out the first round. If you're an elite player, you have to get out the first round. I'm sorry. Now, and especially in this case, when you're looking at how riddled with injury Boston is a good team, and they've gone through a lot, and they've gone through a lot of injuries, and they're still playing to the best of their ability. But just looking at this, Giannis has to show that he is the guy for them. He has to prove day in and day out, because people are going to say, okay, why are you MVP candidate if you're not taking your team to the levels where they need to be. And with the Bucks, I don't even think that they will. I don't think they will beat the Celtics. I just don't. I still don't have it in them. I think Giannis is still maybe give him another year. He needs some better weapons around him.
Yeah, the way that I see the Bucks is that they're kind of like a one-man team at this point. The rest are very inconsistent. Giannis, you know what to expect, but sometimes it might be a little less, sometimes it might be a little more. It fluctuates. So I think with the Bucks, they need to rebuild a little bit more over the next year or two for Giannis. And then also with Boston, they are, from the beginning of the season, they were built from the first man to the 9th or 10th man. So you know what to expect from them, even though they don't have Kyrie, you don't have Smart, you don't have Hayward. You still have stars on that team. Tatum has looked strong all year long. He's a deep three threat just about every time. So you can't leave him wide open. And then I like to see a little bit more out of their bigs, but I think Boston has a big advantage going forward against the Bucks.
So the Philadelphia process has come to fruition. The Sixers were on a heater of a winning streak coming into the playoffs. They took Game 1 against the Miami Heat at home. They lost Game 2 last night. The series is tied 1-1 going to Miami. The Sixers are still without Joel Embiid, their star center. He might be back for this series. People aren't really sure. Do the Sixers still get by even if Embiid's out for the series?
Well, first, let's just not even, curse like that on the air. Of course, Joel Embiid's going to be back. It's the Sixers playoffs. Why?
He missed the first 2 games.
He missed the first 2 games because, Brett Brown and the coaching staff over there, they're deciding to baby the man. I mean, I understand that he has a history of injuries, but if the man is cleared to come back and they were giving him a mask, put him in the game. Honestly, would the situation be different if the Sixers would have won yesterday? I don't think so. I still think that Joel needs to get in, get a rhythm, because I think that the Philadelphia 76ers are good enough to beat the Miami Heat. It's just whether or not, you can't let Dwayne Wade, come out and drop. I think he at least had 25 last time I saw, and it was just ridiculous. You can't, a man that old, okay, he's the Flash, but somebody has to stop him. The Sixers were playing sloppy basketball yesterday. There was no movement. It was a lot of static, nasty things that the Philadelphia 76ers haven't been doing all year.
What worked for them in Game 1, they didn't do in Game 2. They just went to a different game plan, it seemed.
And it looked like at some points that Ben Simmons might have been forcing some of the things that he was doing. He had a few turnovers. He still had a good game, but just this team has to, that's just taking 3 points late in the game when they were only down by 4. That's just showing the youth of this team. They need somebody to go in there and tell them, you don't need these 3 points. You can get 2 points and then just play good defense, get the ball back. But it's a learning process. So just trust it.
Yeah, I have to say, I love what Brett Brown did with the Sixers towards the end of the season with their pickups. Ilyasova and Bellinelli have been probably the 2 biggest pickups late in the season. Bellinelli, J.J. Redick went out early in the first game, and Bellinelli came in and dominated. Whatever he was tossing up, it seemed like it was going in.
That's just the type of player he is. He throws up those shots that you like, no one should shoot those in the league, but he makes them. And it's crazy.
I love how they can have J.J. Redick and Bellinelli at the same time. But in order for the Sixers to really show that they're dominant and they are the 3 seed, I think Embiid has to come back and Simmons needs to play similar to the way that he did in Game 1 where he almost had a triple-double. But I think overall the Sixers are going to be perfect. They should be fine. The process is going to go to the next round.
Okay, the last series of the first round in the East has LeBron James and the Cavs against the Indiana Pacers, the upstart Pacers led by Victor Oladipo, and the Cavaliers got pretty much blown out in the first game. They came back for a while, but the Pacers put them away pretty easily. Stole home court, stole Game 1 against Cleveland. They're up 1-0. Is there any chance the Pacers win this series and shock LeBron James?
Come on. Is this honestly even a question at this point? Yeah, okay, the Pacers, they might have stole Game 1, okay. But when you're dealing with the best player on the planet, LeBron hasn't lost a first-round playoff series. So when you look at that, you can tell that the dynamics of his teams are changing because, he just lost the first game in like the last 12 attempts in the first round. So something crazy like that, which is, ridiculous when you look at, a man who really rarely loses Game 1s. He lost Game 1. Should the world be, surprised? No, you saw what the team was doing this year. But LeBron has to come in on the backhand of that and show the league why he's the best player in the league, and just looking at going against the Indiana Pacers, it shouldn't even be this close, It just really, I think the Cavaliers are a bad team, but when you have the best player in the world, you get out the first round.
Yeah, absolutely. The Cavs don't really have a whole ton of pieces, but they have enough around LeBron to win against The Pacers. Sorry, but Victor Oladipo, Miles Turner. Still very young, so I think the Pacers are a team to watch out for in years to come.
Because when you look at it, Victor Oladipo, this year he's really transcended his game, and that's a good reason why they stole that game, because the way that he's been playing. And Miles Turner, like you're saying, he's been good for them this year as well.
Yeah, Victor Oladipo, most likely most improved player. I don't see any way that he wouldn't get it. But like I said, I think the Pacers are a team 2-3 years down the road that are going to be great. But not when you're playing against LeBron. Who's going to beat LeBron in the first round, like you said? LeBron starting to show some age, but it's still the most dominant player in the NBA.
He played all 82 games this year too, which is pretty impressive. Yeah. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back with Izzy Muhammad, Steve Lennon, and talk about the Western Conference playoffs. So stay tuned here on The Big Hit. We'll be right back.
We need an idea. So let's go through some things. How about a group of kids that hunt for ghosts?
And we're back here on The Big Hit. Chris Hayes here with Izzy Muhammad, Steve Lennon, and talk about the Western Conference of the NBA playoffs. And we'll start with the number 1 seed, the best team in the NBA this year, the Houston Rockets. The matchup with the Minnesota Timberwolves, a team that started off really hot this year, then Jimmy Butler got injured and they cooled off. They slipped down to the number 8 seed. The Rockets took game 1 barely at home. It was a close game, though. Will the Rockets run away with this series and take it in a sweep or 5 games, or will the Wolves make it a 6 or 7 game series, Izzy?
I think they're going for a straight street sweep. Just street sweep everything. When you look at this, when you look at the Rockets, you expect them to go to the finals. I'm not going to give them a game. Of course, the Wolves, the two Wolves, they have Cat, Andrew Wiggins, and Jimmy Butler and company. But just looking at the sheer dominance of the Houston Rockets, when you got a team they're going out there, they can defend well and they can shoot the 3 ball. And you have this year's MVP. I'm calling it now. James Harden has to get the MVP. A guy who's averaging 30 points and almost 9 assists. He has to get the MVP. But we'll see what the voters get into. But I think that Houston Rockets will definitely sweep this in 4. No mercy for them. Straight out of 4.
Yeah, Houston, I don't know if they're going to get a straight sweep. I say 5 games, personally. I think the unsung hero for Houston is Clint Capella this year. I love Clint Capella.
He's improved a lot.
Improved a great amount this season. And James Harden, Chris Paul, just the 3 of them together, some of the best three of the best players in the NBA. The T-Wolves, still young, another young team.
Andrew Wiggins still can't shoot, and he was supposed to learn a few years ago. I don't know why people convinced me that he can shoot. He can't.
Yeah, not really showing that he was the first overall pick that he was several years back. Cat didn't have such a solid game. I think he didn't even have 10 points in the first game. So unless he scores 20, 30 points, then there's no way that the T-Wolves are even going to come close.
2 seed in the West is the defending champion Golden State Warriors. They're without their star, Steph Curry. They have many other stars, though. Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green. They're all playing. They're up 2-0 against the Spurs right now, and they're without star Kawhi Leonard for this series. Will the Warriors struggle, or are they going to sweep or take it in 5?
No, it's a sweep. Another sweep, street sweeper, whatever you want to call it. It's done. Right here, when you have Kevin Durant, yesterday Kevin Durant had 32 and Klay Thompson had 31, and that's just 2 people on their team that can shoot the 3, and they can easily give you 30. And not having Steph Curry isn't a problem when you have Kevin Durant, who's the 2nd best player on this planet. Considering that they have the top 3, I think they'll be fine. They'll definitely be fine getting out of this first round. I don't have much more to say. It's the Warriors.
Yeah, the Warriors are dominant no matter what. Until Steph Curry and Klay Thompson are out of the league, I don't think the Warriors are even going to be touched. But
I wouldn't say that. We'll see later into the playoffs, because I got a little spoiler.
Maybe. Kawhi, I don't think even if
he's still playing basketball.
I don't think if they even had Kawhi, they would even come close. Kawhi's a good player, but he hasn't played at all this season.
I wouldn't say that. I would say if they had Kawhi, it would be it would be very competitive, but where is Kawhi? You know, we don't even know if he's hurt. I don't think he's hurt. He hasn't been hurt for a while. He's just not playing. And Coach Pop doesn't even know what's going on. He said you had to talk to Kawhi and his people. Like, come on. Kawhi, what are you doing?
Yeah, that's not the answer that you should be given, especially if you use your star player. So the Spurs don't even have a chance in this series.
I agree. Let's move on quickly these last two series. Damian Lillard and the Portland Trail Blazers lost at home in Game 1 to Anthony Davis and the New Orleans Pelicans, who are without DeMarcus Cousins. Who do we like in this matchup? It seems pretty evenly matched to me now. Pelicans are up 1-0, but who do we like here?
Real fast, I think I'm definitely going to go with the Trailblazers just because I like the way Damian Lillard has been playing this year. CJ McCollum needs to turn it on. He cannot be off this entire series if they want to be good. He cannot be off. And just shout out to the New Orleans Pelicans. You know, just to see what Anthony Davis is doing with this team. I don't think they're going to get out of this series, but you know they've had a tremendous year, and he's had a tremendous year even after losing Boogie. So shout out to them, but I'll give it to the Trailblazers.
Yeah, I'm also going to go with the Trailblazers. Anthony Davis is probably my second favorite big man in the league behind Joel Embiid, but Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum are just unstoppable for the Trailblazers. I think they'll go to the next round.
All right, last series here. Oklahoma City Thunder, the 4 seed, behind reigning MVP Russell Westbrook, had a great year this year too. Playing the Utah Jazz against the Jazz and Rookie of the Year candidate Donovan Mitchell. Seems like pretty evenly matched series once again. OKC took Game 1 at home. They're up 1-0. Who wins this series?
Utah Jazz, they're a team that a lot of people, on paper, they had around 45 wins. That's a good year for them. They still have a lot of young players on that roster. And just looking at, the way that Paul George has been playing so far in this playoffs, it's only been a game, but the show that he put on just making me more lead when you have, the reigning MVP, you have Paul George and you have Melo, you have Steven Adams, a great defensive guy. They need to get him more involved. When you have pieces like that, I think that they get out this series. I don't think that Utah will. I think it'll go to maybe 5 at the most, and I think that Utah will lose. It's just not time for them to win. Just based off the matchup with OKC, I think OKC just has a better roster.
I'm going to go with OKC in 6. Donovan Mitchell is a rising star. He's an amazing player, can dunk the ball, puts on a show every time that he's on the court. But when you have Mr. Triple-Double himself, then I don't think you stand a chance. And then you have Paul George, Steve Adams. There's no way that the Utah Jazz are even going to get past the Thunder.
All right, we're taking the Thunder here. Awesome stuff from Izzy Muhammad, Steve Langdon. We'll be right back with the NHL playoffs, talking with Jake Taylor and Elliot Hicks. Stay tuned. This is The Big Hit.
Hey guys, I'm Pope, and I'm your host for E&B's Weekly Movie Review. Each week, I'll bring you my opinion on the most recent and hottest films in theaters and new to DVD. E&B airs every Tuesday at 10 p.m. on IUP-TV, Channel 20. Also, don't forget to follow us on Twitter at ENB_IUP-TV, and keep an eye out on our Facebook page for some weekly behind-the-scenes photos and updates for the show. Tune in next week for my movie reviews. See you then.
Welcome back into The Big Hit, here with our usual suspects talking NHL, Jake Taylor, Elliot Hicks. The NHL playoffs are well underway. Teams are playing already here, including the Pittsburgh Penguins, who have a 2-1 series lead on the Philadelphia Flyers. All 3 games have featured dominating performances by the winners. Can Philly even the series in Game 4 Wednesday night, or will the Pens take a commanding 3-1 series lead? Jake, go ahead.
I don't think, even though it is in Philadelphia, I don't think they're going to win this game, just for the sole purpose of Pittsburgh's just an overall better team. I know even the Flyers probably know that, and especially when it comes to the back end goaltending. The only reason they really won at 1 game in this series so far was because Brian Elliott played the mediocre at best, and it was good enough to win because the Penguins weren't really getting any breaks. They hit the post 3 times, hit the crossbar once, and Crosby fanned on the open net. But Brian Elliott did what he had to do. He made the saves, and the Philadelphia offense scored the goals. So if that happens again, which I doubt it will because Matt Murray's been playing great on the other side of things, then maybe Philadelphia will have a chance. But other than that, I really think that Sidney Crosby, the fact that he has more points than the Flyers team has goals, is just remarkable. So you can just take 1 star, the captain of 1 team is just better than the whole other team itself. I'll go out on a limb and say that. That's not even a hot take. That's legit. So I think that when you have Phil Kessel on the third line as well. No team, especially Philadelphia, their depth cannot match that.
Yeah, I feel like what Jake said about goaltending especially is true. If Philadelphia is going to have a chance in this series to come back, they're going to need good play from either Brian Elliott or Peter Mrazek. They traded for him at the deadline. They even have Michael Neuwirth has been a scratch. It seems like that Dave Haxtell is going to roll with Brian Elliott, and you're going to need him to start stepping up like he did in Game 2 if they're going to have a chance. Pittsburgh is definitely the more talented team. They have more star power, even though Giroux's had a great season. He hasn't done a whole lot in this series, at least not in the same way Sidney Crosby has. So if Philadelphia is going to have a chance, it would certainly help for him to win Game 4 and not have to be pushed against the wall with a 3-1 series. But yeah, if Brian Elliott can step up, I don't see why Philadelphia can't take this as 6 or 7 games, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think Pittsburgh is going to take this.
Yeah, especially now because now Hornquist is hurt and he's not playing the game. And
That's
when
right.
Hornquist is, and it's a weird thing that the Penguins had the best power play in the NHL regular season. Philadelphia had the third worst penalty kill, but then the playoffs hit, it switches around. The Penguins' power play isn't all that good, and Philadelphia's penalty kill is pretty good. But when Hornquist isn't in the lineup, when he's on the penalty kill, on the power play, the Penguins are 29% less likely to score a goal without Hornquist, and he's out. So I mean, special teams could play a big role now in Game 4, and if Philadelphia starts to kill some penalties, gets momentum at home, I think maybe they might steal it actually.
I guess the surprise of the playoffs so far, if you want to take it like that, has been the Vegas Golden Knights. They're up 3-0 over the LA Kings, kind of a trendy pick to go far in the playoffs. They're down 3-0 to the Vegas Golden Knights right now. Game 4 is being played Tuesday night. How do the Kings avoid the sweep? And what does this series say about Marc-Andre Fleury and the Vegas Golden Knights, Jake?
Actually, I'm going to throw this one to Ellie because I know Ellie. It's the big
we'll
Vegas and Marc-Andre Fleury fan. He's a Fleury fan.
Yeah, I guess we'll start with the positive side here and then go to the negative side. If you've been watching this show for any length of time this year, you know that I've always been a big believer in the Vegas Golden Knights. Of course, they're continuing to surprise people. I didn't even think they'd go up 3-0 on the Kings. I thought that Los Angeles would present a challenge and maybe even beat them in this series. But the way Vegas has played, they've pretty much done it all now. They've had games where they've dominated the Kings. They've had games where they came back on Los Angeles in the most recent game, winning in double overtime too. This Vegas team, they don't have as many great superstars or whatever, but they have guys that can get it done. We've seen William Karlsson keep up his good goal scoring. We've seen guys like James Neal score when they need to. Marc-Andre Fleury still playing like Marc-Andre Fleury the last 2 playoffs. And I mean, I don't even know if it'll stick. I think they're definitely going to take this series. I don't see them losing the next 4 games all in succession. And I really don't know how much further they can go in the playoffs, but as long as they keep playing like this, I don't see why they can't make a run at the Western Conference Final.
Yeah, I definitely don't see them, like you said, losing 4 games in succession. That's not going to happen. I actually probably do think they're going to sweep because they just have the momentum rolling right now hard. And I think that all of it is on Marc-Andre Fleury. I don't even think they're the Vegas Golden Knights. I really think they're the Marc-Andre Fleurys because they've seen 99 shots, and Marc-Andre Fleury led in 3 goals. That's outrageous. I mean, Jonathan Quick is playing out of his mind. I mean, they had like 58 shots on net that one game, and Quick only led in 1, and they eventually got another goal in double overtime. But that's the only game Vegas actually played better than LA. LA been playing better than them. I don't think the depth defensively on Vegas is there. I think they just let Fleury hang out the dry way too often. But for some reason, LA is really not going to be able to put the biscuit in the basket so far this series, which I do think, I'm not sure who they play in the second round, but when they advance, they're definitely have to tighten up defensively because you can't. It's physically impossible for, like you saw Marc-Andre Fleury last year. He did this against Washington. He did play very well against Washington. But what happened when he started playing against Ottawa? He started letting in goals, and they put Matt Murray in, and Matt Murray started shutting the door. You cannot let your goalie just eat pucks all 3 periods, every single game, and expect to win the Stanley Cup. It's just not going to happen. And the fact that they really only had kind of have one line rolling for them over there with Karlsson, Riley, and Marchessault, and then James Neal occasionally scores. So.
We couldn't do this segment without talking about the Washington Capitals. The Capitals, a team that has had their playoff woes every single year, losing to the Penguins in the past 2 years in the second round. This year in the first round, they're down 2-0. At home, they lost 2 games to the Columbus Blue Jackets, on the verge of another playoff collapse. Can the Blue Jackets carry their momentum into Columbus, or does Washington have a comeback up their sleeves, Jake?
I think Columbus is a very hard arena to play in. I really think they get rowdy. They're just almost like Philadelphia fans. You know, they're getting loud and proud, except Philadelphia lost at home, so I don't think that's a thing anymore. But Columbus stealing 2 in Washington, that's unheard of, honestly. We all know Washington chokes bad in the playoffs, but the fact that you have the wild card team coming into the number 1 the 3-time Metropolitan Division champions, and you beat them twice in the first 2 games at home. It's just surprising. I know in the last 21 playoff games for the Washington Capitals, 11 of them went to overtime. So it just shows that they can't get the job done. Their offense can't get anything rolling. Their highest point scorer, I'm pretty sure, plays defense. And Alex Ovechkin's only good for goals. So I really think that they're going to have to – I don't know what they're going to have to do. I don't even know what they're so talented. I can't see how a team like Columbus, although they're not a bad team. They're in the playoffs for a reason. They were in there last year. But can't even wrap my head around how they're losing right now.
Yeah, and I think really all Washington needs is they need to play a full game. They've lost both these games in overtime, I believe. They've both been really close ones. They had a big lead in Game 2, multiple goals only to be eliminated and end up losing in overtime. So for Washington to be down 2-0 in the series is obviously not ideal. Definitely not what they want, not what Alex Ovechkin wants, not what anybody wants there. But they really just need to play a full game, and they should be fine. I mean, it's really tough to play in Columbus, and obviously that's going to be a challenge. I think you got to stick with Braden Holtby in net now.
Oh, yeah.
Grubauer had the momentum coming into the playoffs, but it's almost kind of like a really early Fleury Murray situation or whatever. You ride the goalie that has the momentum at first, but then it's obvious that Braden Holtby is a more talented and more proven goaltender than a guy like Philip Grubauer. So you got to roll with him in net, and you need to see more from Ovechkin and the superstars. I think that Washington is definitely not out of this yet. They're way too talented to already write them off in this series, but they're in big trouble, and they're going to need to win in Game 3, or else the alarm sounds are going to be going off in that locker room.
They got to win 4 or 5 anyway, so it's going to be tough for them.
Yeah,
we'll see.
True.
Tampa Bay Lightning and the Boston Bruins, we're going to kind of lump those 2 teams together. They're both up 2-0 in their series against the Devils and Leafs, respectively, but they both lost last night, so both series are 2-1. Is this something that the Lightning and Bruins, should worry about, or was it just kind of a blip on the radar here in the first round?
I think the New Jersey Devils against Tampa Bay was a little blip in the radar. You know, they went to New Jersey for the first game. New Jersey won. It's usual now in professional sports where you don't really see too many sweeps, especially in playoffs. I mean, both teams are very talented. They're there for a reason. And that's for Tampa Bay. However, I think that Toronto is a very talented team. And I think Boston just surprised them. They just came out so hot, flying so fast the first 2 games. David Pastrnak had 6 points, the youngest player ever to have 6 points in the playoff game, past Wayne Gretzky and Lemieux and all them. So you have one player take over a game like that, then the next game you kind of have the momentum's rolling. Veteran like Marlowe scores. Austin Matthews gets his first goal. The future captain gets his first goal of the playoffs. And Frederick Anderson made that amazing save. So once you start getting back to your roots, getting back to playing like you were in the regular season, playing like why you got there, playing how you got there, I think Toronto's definitely going to make a harder on Boston. I'm not sure if Toronto's actually going to come back and win the series. That might be a little hard, but I think that New Jersey was just one win there for Tampa Bay. They didn't let them win, but they kind of let them win. And then I think Toronto's really just good competition for Boston.
Yeah, I'd have to kind of go the same way. I think the Lightning are probably a more talented team than Boston, even though Boston has had big games from guys like Pastrnak. And, I mean, the Devils, they've had a good season, but they're probably not going to come back in this series. But I definitely think that Boston should be a little more worried about the Maple Leafs. They got a lot of talent there. Again, you got a little bit of everything in the game that they won. You had the veteran score, the rookie Austin Matthews score, and get very excited with the celebration I saw. But I think either way, both Tampa Bay and Boston are going to take these series. They've both just played really well. They both sniffed the President's Trophy a little bit and were the top 2 in that division with a great amount of points. So I wouldn't necessarily call it just a blip on the radar for either team, but I think both of these teams will be fine as long as they just keep doing what they're doing. But if they let either team win Game 4 and even the series, then just like I said with Washington, there's going to be the alarms going off in their locker room.
All right, that's all we got for NHL. Pretty good stuff. Jake Taylor, Elliot Hicks, from director Darnell Turner, producers Jared Brown and Izzy Muhammad. I'm Chris Hayes. We'll see you next time on The Big Hit.